The Dartmouth High School 8th Annual Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony took place May 16, 1997. Graham Macon, class of 1937, was one of the inductees. Louis Regis, class of 1954. Paul Foster, class of 1962. Lawrence Pettigene, class of 1963. Tony Gonzalez, Special Achievement inductee. Tony Pinto, Special Achievement inductee. Michael Tavares, class of 1984. And Lee Ventura McBratney.
A person who has been with the Hall of Fame committee since its inception, a person who has given a great deal to this program and to the school system, and our chairman of the Hall of Fame committee, Mr. Tom Cadrew. Tom, please.
Thank you, Coach. On behalf of the Hall of Fame, it is my pleasure to congratulate our newest inductees. On behalf of the committee, to welcome you all here tonight. This is an evening that many people put a lot of time and effort into putting together. 9 years ago, a man named Mr. Rick Barry broke the ground for this organization and set the bylaws by which we have now, and is basically responsible for what we have now. And consequently, we take the work that he did and we try to build on it and try to make this a memorable evening for everyone. The people who serve on this committee give a lot of their time. We meet once a month and we spend a great deal of time going over all of the inductees that all of the people whose names are submitted to us for possible induction. It is not an easy process. And many people come up to us later and they say, well, why isn't this person, why isn't that person inducted? And it's primarily because we don't have them. And we're dependent on people like you, that if you feel or you know someone that participated in athletics at Dartmouth and distinguished themselves, that for us to be able to consider them, we have to have them. And we're dependent on the public for their input so that we can honor these people. If you could just bear with me, I would like to introduce the members of our committee who have spent a lot of time and effort in trying to put this evening together. Mr. Thorsten Islander, Hall of Fame member Mr. Kimball Baker, Hall of Fame member Mr. Mark Cadero, Hall of Fame member Mr. Walter Ferrier, my good friend and who covers up for all my mistakes, Coach Colin Lynch, Hall of Fame member Rocky Wayne Cadero, and Hall of Fame member Maureen Waltz. There are many others who also give of themselves. I'm only the chairman as far as name because, believe me, I can follow up a free lunch, and all the people on this committee can attest to that. I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time. But the one person who's really the chairperson of this committee is Mrs. Brenda Regan, who basically does all of the work and organization for this, and I want to mention that to you because she does all of the work and asks for nothing. And without her, there would be no Hall of Fame. So on behalf of the committee, on behalf of our inductees, thank you very much for coming, and please enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.
Just to clear up one thought about Tommy, that's not true because Tommy played football for me at Dartmouth High School. I was a coach there for many years, and Tommy covered up a lot of my mistakes as a coach. So Tommy, thank you very much for all your hard work. The next person I'd like to say a few words is the principal of Dartmouth High School, and in my opinion, the theme of this night, in my opinion, is it's a giving theme, and no one gives more to the town of Dartmouth and the school department than our principal, Don King. A wise man once told me that there are two types of people in this world, givers and takers, and Mr. King is the ultimate giver. Mr. King?
Thank you, Colin, and good evening. On behalf of the present students and staff at the high school, I would like to welcome you here and offer our congratulations to the inductees on this 8th induction. It's because of these inductees we're here tonight. Their achievements epitomize what Dartmouth Pride is all about. Their athletic deeds are the cement foundation to our many memories, positive memories that we have to share tonight. We thank them for those memories and hope they really enjoy their evening. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a man who is now our new superintendent, Dr. Tom Kelly, and we have worked for many superintendents who have understood the real meaning of athletics. And Tom is no exception to this. In his own right, his athletic achievements are similar to our inductees. Dr. Kelly was an All-American baseball player at Holy Cross College and was inducted to the Holy Cross Hall of Fame. So it's certainly a pleasure for me to introduce my boss, Dr. Tom Kelly. Dr. Kelly?
Thanks, Colin. I hope you folks will bear with me for about 2 minutes. A lot of times when you're asked to say a couple of words, you're expected to be inspirational. I appreciate being asked to say a couple of words at this event because it's inspiring to have an opportunity to talk to folks like you. As I was thinking about this event, which is really a celebration, I reflected on the reasons why we wait for a period of time to elect people to a Hall of Fame. It was clear when the athletes who are up for consideration tonight were competing. It was clear that their accomplishments on the athletic field would always be among the best of those who had ever dressed in the uniform of Dartmouth High School. So why weren't they named to Hall of Fame at that time? Well, we didn't have a Hall of Fame at that time, but that's just a detail because we don't do that today. I suggest to you that it's the tradition of Dartmouth High School athletics and indeed this Hall of Fame, that the Hall of Fame is less about the events of life than what it means for life to be lived. Earl Campbell, pro quarterback for many years and a very good one, said, "Someone will always break your records. It's how you live that counts." And many years ago, another outstanding athletic performer, or a gifted athletic performer, said, "Fame is a vapor. Popularity is an accident. Money takes wings. Those who cheer you today may curse you tomorrow. The only thing that endures is character." It's tragically ironic, yet no less meaningful, that the person that made that observation was O.J. Simpson. So I submit to you, honored inductees, that you're being recognized this evening for something that only has its roots in the talent, dedication, and perseverance that you applied toward your success as an athlete at Dartmouth High. You're being recognized for how you applied those lessons to your life then and since then. You're being recognized and forever connected to the tradition of Dartmouth High School athletics because of your character. Tom Pagna, a former football coach, said, "Character represents the sum total of a personality. What one is, what one has done and will do. It further reflects itself in action. Great character," he said, "has no facades. It shines with honesty, respect, true humility, and an inner faith that knows we are but the recipients of a great gift. It's for this we salute you, and we thank you for sharing with us your gift forever in the Dartmouth High School Athletic Hall of Fame." Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call on the chairman of the Dartmouth School Committee, John Nooms. John is also known as Doc, and the reason why, when we first started coaching at Dartmouth High School many years ago, Doc was our student manager, and he was our trainer, our doctor, our quasi-coach. He was everything. And he went on to great heights, and here he is back in Dartmouth as a member of our school committee, again giving and doing everything. He has done so much for the different schools in our town, the Mellow School, the middle school, the high school. He supports every event that we have, not only with his vote on the school committee, but more importantly with his own labor and love. Doc Nooms. Doc?
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate the kind words. It's very kind. I do appreciate it. After hearing Mr. King and Tommy and Dr. Kelly with their inspiring words, I do, on behalf of the Dartmouth School Committee, congratulate all the inductees tonight. It is indeed satisfaction and well worth the effort that you have put in over all of these years. It is a pleasure to be here to represent the school committee. I congratulate you, and I do wish you the best. Thank you very much.
You know, when I was thinking about this Hall of Fame the last couple of days, I've been involved with 8 of these, and I really get kind of melancholy and also very nostalgic, I guess, when I talk about the people that are going into this Hall of Fame who have gone into other Hall of Fames. This class is kind of a special class, I think, because if there was a theme that you could think of that this class kind of represents, it's giving and caring, and they have a tremendous impact on the sport they play, and they gave so much to the town. I think of Tony Pinto and Tony Gonzalez, who were the ultimate givers. And as I saw and talked to Leah Ventura McBratney tonight, I thought of the little girls track team that was started way back then when Mr. Porter did not want girls out for track. And I thought that, and that's the truth, and he understands that, and he finally admitted that women are stronger than men. But the thing that kind of made me that she was really a crusader in her sport, I think of Graham Macon, who went on to give his country. He was a major in the Army and later became a police officer in Montana. I think of Larry Pettigene and Michael Tavaz, who were such ingenuous athletes that they never thought of themselves. They were low-key, but loved their sport a great deal. And that's the kind of a theme I see being wove through this class, this very special class of 1997. And I also, when I came to Dartmouth a long time ago, I knew that it was a special place because of the people that I got to know and the pride they had in the town. And many of those people are no longer with us. Many of those people have gone on to their maker, and many of them are so fervent in my mind, and I'm sure in many of your minds. So I'd like to have kind of everybody kind of just think a minute of the people they know that have gone before us, that have given so much to the town of Dartmouth, and who are now deceased, and if we could just have a moment of silence for those wonderful people who have carried or made us carry the spirit that is with us tonight. I think of so many, Alvin Glazer and Dean Freitas, Mr. Shorrock, so many wonderful people, John Erickson, who was a great mentor to me when I first started teaching and coaching in Dartmouth. So I'd like to have us kind of just bow our heads and think of those wonderful people and what they have meant to each and every one of us, these men and women of Dartmouth who are no longer with us. Thank you very much. We were discussing the Hall of Fame this year and who would be eligible, and talking to Kim Baker at length. The name Graham Macon kept coming up and kept coming up and kept coming up. And so I started investigating it, and Kim and I started talking about it. We talked to the committee about him, and then I talked to Mr. Ernie Stevens a great deal about him, and people of the 30s, and John Mather, and he certainly was an outstanding athlete. In those days at Dartmouth High School, you could play football, basketball, baseball, and track. He was also involved with, he was a great skater, a great dancer. A quote in his yearbook says, "Whoever excels in what we prize appears a hero in our eyes." And he was certainly that. He was a three-sport captain, football, baseball, and basketball. He was an excellent athlete, but also a scholar. Won the Scholar Athlete Award at Dartmouth High School. A musician, member of the drama club. He was truly a Renaissance man at Dartmouth High School. And I think it's only fitting that we're very fortunate to have his daughter here this evening, Nancy Macon Walsh, to accept for her father his induction into the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. Nancy, please come up. Our next inductee is Lou Regis, class of 1954. As a coaching colleague of mine a long time ago, I always admired Lou for the quality of being fiercely loyal to his school, community, and the coaches that he worked with for so many years. It is now my privilege to introduce Lou Regis' presenter, Walter Faria, who is also a member of the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. Wally, please.
Thank you, Colin. Before I make any remarks about Lou Regis, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few things about some people that I've seen here tonight. Dartmouth's always been a special place. It's always been a special athletic place, and I think that just didn't happen overnight. I noticed that Dean Freitas, his name is mentioned in here, and Dean, the name Dean Freitas is synonymous with the Dean of Athletics at Dartmouth High School, because I think he was instrumental in bringing the quality of athletics that we know today and the quality of coaches that we have in the school system. Together with Dean Freitas, though, I would also like to point out that Tom Quinn is here tonight, and Mr. Quinn, who was on the school committee, was also instrumental, along with Dean Freitas, making sure that Dartmouth always had the best coaches. Tom, thank you very much. I also would like to point out that there's a Hall of Famer here today by the name of Wayne Cadero, and that I understand a couple of weeks ago that his son broke his record of 32 years, and he hasn't been able to watch TV for 1 month since that happened. So, Rock, take it easy on the kid, will you? And lastly, I would like to say that I noticed that Al Porter is here, and I'm working on breaking his record, whatever that is. Now, let's get back to Lou Regis. I'm going to call him Mr. Regis because his lovely wife Kathy is here, and she made a remark tonight. She says, wouldn't it be nice if we had videotapes to see Lou and some of the inductees playing in sports? And I said, Kathy, they didn't have video cameras when Lou played. And unfortunately, I never saw him play football. And I'm not going to bore you with the statistics because you can read what he did, and we know that he was one heck of a football player. And what I did was I went back and talked to some of the people that played with him, and they indicated that Louis Regis was one football player. He played football when football players didn't have the equipment that they have today, didn't have the advantages they have today. And I would have to say that I think it was a different game in those days, but what I really would like to say about his football ability is that I think it's also indicative that we have Michael Tavares being inducted the same night, because I think they're very similar. And Mr. Lynch will tell you about Michael Tavares, but one of the greatest parts about being a football player is that having played the backfield, you can always look back and say, well, I scored touchdowns. And it's difficult for a lineman to say, well, I scored touchdowns or I did something. But the heart and soul of a football team is the lineman that played defense and offense. And Louis Regis was the heart and soul of his football team at Dartmouth High School for 4 years. I met Mr. Regis, as I said, when I was in high school. Lou had coached at Dartmouth High School prior to my arriving at Dartmouth High School, and then he left Dartmouth High School and went to vocational high school, where he coached with Joseph Beckfoot and had very successful teams at vocational, and I believe that they were the team that coached New Bedford High School. They coached against New Bedford High School, where both tied New Bedford High School when they're 40-point underdogs. But rumor had it that Mr. Regis, Joseph Beckfoot had left and went to Cape May, and Mr. Regis came back to Dartmouth High School, and the rumor was that he was one mean son of a gun. And I remember talking to the linemen at the time, and I see Chad here and Richie Gonzalez who can attest to this, but after the practices, they would come up and they say, boy, this guy is tough. And I tried to assess the situation as being a lineman. I looked at him and I said, he can't be that tough. He's a little guy. So we'd have conversations with the linemen. I said, how tough can this guy be? I had to find out for myself, and I didn't realize at the time. I was 17 years old. You think you're the toughest guy in America, and Mr. Regis was 10 years older than I was, but being 17, anybody that was over 21 was like 60. So I challenged him one day out in the field, and I'll never forget this because I had my football equipment on. He turned his baseball hat around and he had his glasses on, and he hit me with one forearm, and I went back and I showered up. So I suddenly realized that Louis Regis, I realized why he played 4 years at Dartmouth High School as a lineman, and then went on to play college football and started for 4 years. And the amazing thing about it is that he never was hurt. He always played. And he used to say that when we played, that when he played football, that the maybe it's not called surgical tape, but the white tape we used to tape our ankles with, he said that was the panacea or the cure-all for a sprained ankle or a sprained wrist or whatever. Just tape it up and play. And that's the rough, tough football that Louis Regis played. And I realized that that he had the biggest heart in America. And when I came in today, his lovely wife handed me a note that one of his college football players by the name of Larry Littner had given her to have me read. But since I've turned 50, I can't see close up, so I can't read it, but I can tell you that basically what he said is that Louis Regis had the desire and the biggest heart in America, and that's what made him excel. And knowing him as my coach and as a friend, I can say that his desire to play the game, you can't doubt his desire. He really is not the biggest guy in America. And for him to accomplish what he did, to play 4 years at Dartmouth High School and 4 years in college, made him a special man. It was his desire and his love for the game that made him excel. But more importantly, what I would like to say is that as a coach, I noticed that he sacrificed because he was a businessman and a very successful businessman. He wanted to be a coach since he was in high school. When he came back, he coached at Dartmouth, he coached at vocational, he coached at Dartmouth again, and he went back to New Bedford. He went to New Bedford High School and coached. He loved the sport, he excelled at it, and he touched a lot of individuals. And that's the bottom line in this game, is that he was happy doing what he did, and he excelled at it. And I'd like to introduce him tonight. Lou, come on up. You got to say a few words. Talk about algebra.
I'm really honored from deep in my heart, and I want to thank Colin and President Donald King and the President of Dartmouth High School. And I'm just saying, I'm still honored and I'm proud that I went to Dartmouth High School, and so it'll always be in my heart for the rest of my life. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
And continuing the theme that we think that the class of 1997 kind of denotes is the theme of giving. And our next inductee, Paul Foster, class of 1962, is without a doubt one of the greatest all-around runners in the history of Dartmouth High School track. Also, he is the originator and one of the founders of the half marathon, which in New Bedford now has become world renowned. I'd like to call upon his mentor, coach, and friend, Al Porter, to present Mr. Paul Foster to the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Colin. Honored guest, Mr. Farrier, you never speak first and leave the rebuttal. Good attorney, you know better than that. Whatever field of endeavor you are attempting to outdo me in, I think you did it a long time ago. If you'll bear with me, because I am also over 50 and my eyesight isn't what it used to be. Paul S. Foster, class of 1992, cross-country track. It's good to see you again, Paul. Wish we'd seen each other a couple of weeks ago. Here today to share this honor with Paul are his wife Sue, his daughter Catherine, his brother Bob, and his sisters Judy and Gail. Anyone who was even remotely knowledgeable about cross-country in the early 60s knew the name Paul Foster. Paul was the dominant presence on the local scene in 61 and 62. Rarely did a runner challenge Paul during his junior and senior years at Dartmouth High School. Paul rolled through the dual meet schedule, won the league championship, and placed in the state meet his junior year. However, it was his senior year that Paul indelibly stamped his name on the roster of all-time Dartmouth High School athletic greats. Again, Paul rolled up all opposition on the dual meet schedule. However, he was upset in the league championships. He showed signs of great fatigue. It was sometime in the future that I was to learn that upon leaving practice, Paul would go home and run more, often up to 10 miles a night. On the way home from the league meet, I told Paul that I did not want him at practice for the rest of the week. Now, this was a Monday afternoon. I told him what time the bus was going to leave on Saturday, and he better be there for the trip to the state meet. This set the scene for what was to become, in my opinion, one of the greatest accomplishments in Dartmouth High School athletic history. Grantland Rice would have probably been the only sports writer to properly portray this scene. It was a dreary and foggy day. 300 boys were lined up outside White Stadium to race 2.5 miles for the title. The course record was 13 minutes and some seconds. Never had a boy in any of the classes come close to a 13-minute time. My own hopes for Paul at that point were minimal. He seemed to have self-destructed earlier in the week, and I could only hope. The gun sounded, and the 300 runners raced off into the fog, following a Boston Park Department pickup truck. They were soon lost to sight. Our manager, Mike Rokicki, and I went into the White Stadium and climbed to the top of the stadium to wait and to gain a better view of when the runners began to return. In a few minutes, Rokicki started yelling and grabbing my arm. Here comes the truck, and Foster's right behind it. They were 400 yards from the finish line, which was on the 50-yard line of the White Stadium football field. I checked my stopwatch. 11 minutes and 40 seconds. My only thought was, my God, he's gotten himself lost. No one was near Paul as he raced into the stadium to become the first runner in history to break 13 minutes. He hit the line in a new record, 12 minutes and 50 seconds. I have right here a Boston Globe picture of Paul hitting the tape. This picture, along with the pictures of other state champions, had graced my wall when I was working at Dartmouth High School and now in my home. The week following the state meet, Paul was to represent Dartmouth High School in the New England Cross Country Championships at the University of Connecticut. He finished 7th, which was a great showing. Paul ran track in the days before the 2 mile was an event on the program. As a result, he had to run the 1 mile. At this distance, he was a very good runner. However, had we contested the 2 mile, there's no question in my mind that Paul would have been one of the best that Massachusetts ever produced. Paul, this is your moment. Congratulations. Congratulations, Paul.
That was quite a speech, Al. I quite enjoyed that. This is the start of a parade of what I call the Bliss Corner connection, because as we're going to go down, most of us are from Bliss Corner, and that's amazing. I think that's great. Al has the story pretty right on the state championship cross country. Except one thing he left out. The league meet before the state meet, I actually finished 17th. And I was kind of really down. And I was tired. And basically it was because I kind of overtrained. I started in the summertime, but by the time the state meet rolled around, I was pretty tired. And Al, I think Al Boucher had something to do with this also. Between the two, decided that I should rest. And they also had a plan. And it was that no longer could I just run like a maniac from the starting line and try to beat everybody that way, but to run from behind. And I wasn't too sure that would work. But as luck would have it, it worked out that way, and I was very fortunate. But that's not the true story. He didn't tell the whole story. I think my good friend Mike, who I'm going out to Indiana and visit next month, told it the best. See, I don't think Al thought I could win, and I thought I couldn't win either. And as he's watching what's going on, I think Mike was watching also, and Al was seeing these two runners running along, and they were my opponents, and he was looking behind. Where the hell is Foster? You know what I mean? Where is that guy? And Mike says, he's not back there, he's over there. And it was truly a great moment in my life, and I will never forget it. Basically because it's a dream. You know, it was a goal I had set early in my career, and to have it happen that way was really great. And I truly was very fortunate and very grateful to Al, who had trained me for so long. And I think he was, if anybody wanted me to win a state title, that was the man who wanted me to. It really was. I mean, when I hit the finish line, he was there, you know, and it was a great feeling. But I'd also like to say, it's great to be in the Hall of Fame. It's such an honor for me today. And I can say that truly. I think some people kind of take it for granted that Hall of Fame's a popularity contest. You know, that only a few can get in, but they always seem to pick the ones that they want, you know. And I don't feel that way. I feel like, you know, everybody is deserving to be in the Hall and not that many can get in. And that's really truly unfortunate today. But I'm very, very glad to be one of the chosen few. And I really think that Hall of Fames have a positive aspect also, and that is that they link the past to the present. You know, as I think of Hall of Fame and think Hall of Fames that I've been known about, and you see a picture of someone, and it brings back that past, and it also brings back the past, and with that picture and that name, other names are brought up. People who probably never make Hall of Fame said, I wish they could. And people who will be fortunate enough later on to also be here also to be honored. And that's what the essence of an Hall of Fame is. And my time at Dartmouth High School was very short. It was my high school career lasted 3 years. It was a wonderful 3 years, and I couldn't have had a better coach. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Before we go further, I think it's important each and everybody in the audience knows that we do have a Hall of Fame Carter at Dartmouth High School. As a result of the efforts of Rick Barry and his people who helped him, it's a beautiful Hall of Fame, and it's well done. And the pictures of these people tonight will be added to the other Hall of Fames we have there. And it's interesting, Paul's remarks, as you see the students go down the hall and they look up, they're constantly impressed with the different athletes that are up there. So I think it's fitting that hopefully you'll all come back and see our Hall of Fame corridor, which we think is very, very special. Our next Hall of Famer really is quite an athlete, and I think about two people that are very similar. I know this may sound a little silly, but I think I do know a little bit about athletics. I've been in it all my life. I remember watching Larry Pettigene pitch way back in 1963 and 62. And I saw a young man 3 years ago pitch for Dartmouth High School, and they both pitched very, very much the same. That young man is on the verge of being a major leaguer, and I firmly believe that Larry Pettigene would have been a major leaguer also, if an injury and the way the league is set up today might have been. But I know he's been the benchmark for all Dartmouth High School pitchers. And the other day, Brian Rose was in my office, and we were discussing the Hall of Fame, and he said to me, Coach, that guy must have been a hell of a pitcher. And he certainly was. And tonight, as Larry goes into Larry goes into the Hall of Fame, I know that there are a lot of people very proud of Larry. And I think one of the people who's been his real supporter is Wally Ferry, who again will come up and present Larry Pettigene into the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. Walter?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Colin. This next inductee happens to be a very special person to me. I think I learned a lot from the game of baseball. I met him when I was playing Little League, and at the time we played at Jones Park. Larry Pettigene, as Paul Foster pointed out, is a Bliss Corner man, and he had a major league curveball when he was in Little League. And I think the role model that he was for all of us, we'd go down and stand on the wall down at Jones Park and watch that major league curveball to our amazement. It kind of fueled all of us to want to play baseball and to be like Larry Pettigene. Fortunately, I had the advantage of, I'm a little bit younger than Larry, but when I got to high school, Larry Pettigene was the star. As Colin pointed out, he was the Brian Rose of Dartmouth High School baseball. And one of the disadvantages that he had is that it seemed like at times, because he was so good, that we would just take it for granted that we were going to win the baseball game because Larry was pitching and we wouldn't hit. And we'd have to win the baseball game 1-0. You have to pitch a shutout or no-hitter for us to win. So being a star has its disadvantages because we always relied on him and we always knew that he was going to pitch a no-hitter or a one-hitter to win the ball game for us. And I can always say that he never disappointed us. It was amazing that as a high school pitcher, that he was as successful as he was. His record speaks for itself. As I said, I'm not one for statistics. I can only say that having watched him and having played with him, I can remember playing, I think it was a 17-inning game against Tabor Academy, and he didn't walk anybody. He threw strikes, and the curveball was always working. And that's the way he was. He was a competitor, and I also would like to say, too, that I remember watching him play basketball, because most people remember Larry Pettigene as a baseball player. But he was one hell of a basketball player. And I found out that, and later on in life, talking to his coaches and his friends, I couldn't understand why Larry Pettigene never played football, because I used to watch him at Jones Park, and he could always catch the ball, and he would have been a great end. And somebody once told me that his coach, who was also the baseball and football coach, was smart enough to recognize his baseball talents and told him, I don't want you to play football. I don't want you to get hurt. I want you to be on the baseball field. And that's what happened. And I think that that's one indication to me that he was one hell of a baseball player, that the coach didn't want him to play football. The other thing that made me realize that he was one heck of a baseball player is that all the cheerleaders were chasing him and he didn't play football. So I knew that he must have been a good baseball player. We'll strike that from the record though, Larry. In any event, he went on, played for the Minnesota Twins, and as Mr. Lynch pointed out, if it wasn't for an injury, we would probably be getting tickets when they came to Fenway Park. But unfortunately, as one knows about athletics, it's not always, our future in athletics, or one's future in athletics, is not always what we want. And luckily, no one can change what he did at Dartmouth High School. His records are there, his reputation, his desire to play the game will always be there. And I'm proud, and I know everybody that knows Larry is proud, to introduce him tonight. Larry, please come up.
Thank you very much, Walter, for your kind words. And please excuse me, but I will not look at this table with Mr. Fenton. I'm sorry. I can't take him right now. We'll get to you later on. I'd like to dedicate this fine award that I'm receiving tonight to my mom, who passed away this January. There was 3 things in her life that she was hoping to do. One was to reach her 80th birthday. The second was to be here tonight. And the third one I don't think any of us will ever see, and that's the Red Sox win the World Series. She was really a baseball fan, and I guess maybe that's where I got it from. And it wasn't until maybe 12 years ago but my mom and I were talking about baseball. She says to me, well, the Red Sox got Wade Boggs. I can understand that, he was old. And she says to me, well, he had the best on-base percentage of anybody last year. I looked at her and said, how do you know this? And that's the way she was. She loved her baseball, and I think that's where I got it. I'd like to thank the committee for nominating and electing me to this great honor that I have this evening. And it's something I'm very proud of. And what we're doing this evening reminds me of what happened 30, 40 years ago, believe it or not. Coach Kevin Cadia, we had an assembly for the student body at Dartmouth High School. And he made the announcement that I had, in fact, received a very good offer from the Minnesota Twins. And at the time, I said thank you to Colin, but no, to Kevin. I never had the opportunity, or I didn't take advantage of the opportunity, to thank a lot of people who helped me. And tonight, I hope to do that. And with your help, I would like you to pass on this message to people's families who are no longer with us. There are a lot of people I have to thank. First, I would have to say to Walter Farrier's dad. When I was 11 years old, down at Jones Beach playing baseball, he approached me about moving on into New Bedford, a city league where there was a lot more competition, and I said yes. And that same year, my gym teacher, as they were called in those days, Richard Sisson, approached me and said, I'd like to teach you. I'd like to tutor you. And I was very proud and honored. And he was the one who showed me to throw a curveball. And in those days, what we called the drop. Today, it's called a curveball, and a curveball is now a slider. So you see, things have changed. But Mr. Sisson always called me Lawrence. And throughout my career at Dartmouth, he always made a point to see me, talk to me, and help me. And I thought it was one of the nicest things that a gym teacher could do for an athlete. And I was very thankful to him. After that, I was introduced to another gentleman, Earl DeMarando, who also lived in the town of Dartmouth. And I played Pony League baseball in Greater New Bedford. There he coached me. He was a pitcher for high school. And from there we went on to the Pony League World Series, where I was able to pitch there and gained a lot of respect for the game, and also realized that there were a lot of good players out there, and that it was going to take a lot of hard work to accomplish what I wanted to do. Back when I was in the 8th grade, we had a yearbook. My daffy desire, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I knew then it was something that I wanted, and I also knew it was going to take a lot of hard work. And I took it very seriously. And I think that's what we all have to do today, no matter what we do in life. You have to take it very seriously, and you have to have good fundamentals. And I was given these through Mr. Sisson, Mr. Farrier, and Mr. Demorambo. And I took it on to high school, where I had Kevin Cadia as a coach. First coach I had as a freshman was Mr. Barbawicki. Mr. Barbawicki, I believe, was the one who started the designated hitter. One day I went 4 for 4, and he benched me. I said, what did I do wrong? He said, pitchers don't hit. And that was the story. And I think that's where the designated hitter rule started. But Mr. Barbawicki loved to hit, and I loved to pitch, and it was fun to pitch against him. And the same thing with Mr. Cadia. Cadia loved to hit, and I loved to pitch. And that was a competition that we always had. I had great success playing basketball. It was a sport I enjoyed. The gentleman that I made fun of, Mr. Fenninger, was my freshman coach. A lot of times we would play 2-on-2. That was the first lesson I got, never take the ball out of bounds. Because if he got it, you never saw it again. And I understand he's still like that today. And I want to congratulate you on the retirement this year. I wish you the best of health and the best of luck in the future. It was nice playing for you. Mr. Fenninger was my 8th grade teacher. I believe it was your first year that you taught. I don't want to give out how old you are. He was my first teacher. I was in his class, rather. So was Mr. Barbawicki. From there, in my senior year, Coach Cadia put a lot of responsibility on me. And I wanted it. He told me that it was my job to help the younger players learn how to pitch and help them in any way I could. And I think by doing this, it helped me be a better ball player. And I thank him for it. And if any of you do see him, please tell him that I say thank you. I have a couple of stories I want to tell. First, about Paul Foster. Paul was my next door neighbor. And what he forgot to tell you is, when I was going into my junior year, Paul was going into his senior year. And he said to me, why don't you run with me? It's a fun sport. I mean, you ever see anybody smiling when they run out the streets these days? They don't have fun. But Paul said to me, leave my house at 7 o'clock in the morning. Myself and a friend of ours named Tom Perry from Bishop Stang High School would meet at Paul's house at 7 o'clock in the morning. He'd have a bowl of Wheaties for us and say, okay, let's go. I figured a jog down to the beach and come back. 5 miles at least. We'd run 3 days a week. And Paul would say, come on, you gotta do it tomorrow. I gave it up very quickly. I just couldn't keep up with him. It was just too much for me. And Paul, I hope you remember those days. Paul and I were neighbors, and we used to be down at Jones Park playing baseball, basketball, tennis, whatever we could play. And I really miss that, and those were happy days for us. I mean, I could mention a bunch of names and that we all played together. Wally, Rocky. There were a lot of us from that neighborhood who played. Mr. Gonsalves was going to be a water tenant. Also, he lived down the end of the street from us. Mrs. McGratney, who I didn't know who she was until this evening. I know Jim, her husband, and I've seen her, but I didn't realize her maiden name was Ventura. And it was quite an honor to say that I do know you. Congratulations to you. There's one other story I have to tell about Mr. Porter. And this is a true story. My senior year, I went up to Coach Candier and I said, I'd like to play football. He laughed. He said, go see Mr. Porter. I said, for what? Go run cross country. Mr. Porter said, sure, you can come out for the team. I ran. I brought a friend of mine, Bruce DeMello. Fortunately, Bruce lived around the corner. The track team would take off, we'd go to Bruce's house, wait for him to come back, and run with him. We had it made. Well, one day Coach Porter says, I want to see you at the Whaling City Country Club. There's a track meet. I want you to be there. Bruce and I get all excited. Hey, we're going to get a uniform, we're going to run. This sounds great. We get there, there's Mr. Porter with his 2 little boys. All right, Larry and Bruce, I want you to babysit the kids. I couldn't believe it. I started all psyched up for this. That was the kind of guy Mr. Porter was. Seriously, I want to thank everybody this evening. I think this is quite an honor, like Paul said. It's something that not everybody will be able to get into. I'm very proud of it. Is that Mr. Doyen over there? Oh, very quiet, Mr. Doyen. Hi, Mr. Doyen. One of the football coaches and great men at Dartmouth High School. I think it's quite an honor. And I say thank you for everyone here. Thank you, Walter, for the kind words, Colin for this evening, and the committee for voting me. Thank you very much.
Back in 1974, a young woman with 2 or 3 others came up to me and said they wanted to run track. I said, certainly. Well, for the boys' team. They said, well, we don't have a locker room and we don't know where to dress, so we have them kind of dress in the closet. And Mr. Porter says they'll last about 1 day. The rest is history. Leah Ventura McBratney, class of 1975, was very instrumental in starting girls' track at Dartmouth High School. And Leah, you should be so proud when you watch the girls' track team at Dartmouth High School. Because without you and your little contingent, there would be no girls' track team. Tonight, Leah will be presented by her coach, Bob Simmons, longtime coach of cross country and track at Dartmouth High School. Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. awful nice seeing all you people here, and certainly welcome aboard to all the friends and former athletes of Dartmouth High School. I've only got 5 pages here, so we'll just take it easy. Leah was, for sure, the trailblazer in girls' athletics. And if she had let me be a little bit more demanding, as I tried to be, she'd have been a true trailblazer. Because back in those days, 1971, 72, girls did not run cross country. And she kind of looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, Leah, I says, you need it. I said, you really could benefit by it and go through all those kinds of things. And no, she was there busy doing her, I do believe it was rifles. Color guard, okay. And I do remember after a meet at night, her dropping the rifle. And me sitting there after we had run, Bishop Stang, I think, and looking at her sitting there and finally shaking my head and her saying, either. Okay, she comes back from Penn State, where she had received a full scholarship on her track, saying, you know, you should have made me do it. I said, oh, fine, you know. Funny what things come back to you and you say, well, gee whiz, you know, you should have made me do it. And we get that a lot. I think we as teachers, people come back and say, gee, you know, why didn't you? But anyway, to get on with a little bit of an odyssey with the young lady, just to kind of bring her up to snuff, her with a whole group of girls, and some of them are here tonight, Patty Holcomb and Mary Lou Robidoux, were definitely trailblazers. And I said to my wife, when I came back after a very successful season with the ladies, I would have a problem coaching guys again. These girls really, sincerely ruined me because they were such dedication all the way through. They were just fantastic. But anyway, Leah Ventura went on to do a lot of things at Dartmouth High School. She still holds 4 of the records at Dartmouth High School. That's 22 years ago. I hate to say it, but that's a long time ago, honey. Right? 22 years. Stop and think about it. Wow. Okay, as was alluded to before, Rocky Cadero's son just broke his record, who I helped Rocky set the record, and that goes back a long time. 32 years, I mean, that's a long time. 22 doesn't quite compare to that, but that's still up there, all right? So here she is, she's on her way, starts off the first year, just a regular girl, just out there trying. Mr. Lynch lines up a couple of meets for us. One was Old Rochester, remember that distinctly. And Mr. Lynch said, well, it's going to be a scrimmage. Well, okay, Old Rochester comes, they have 2 busloads. It looked like the Red Army coming out of the buses. At least 100 girls. It was like, we had something like 12, 14 kids, and it was like, oh my God, what have we got here? Okay, they hung in there, okay? I should mention Lizzie Lynch in that group too. They hung in there. There's no way that they were going to get, and they took their licks, they come back a couple of years later, and we beat them. So things go around, come around, all right? They hung in there. The second year, it was just a club at that situation. Second year, we really got going into it. And she managed a 6th place in the state meet in the long jump. I said, gee, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all. Third year, which would be a junior year, she placed, she had a bad, this is the kind of kid she was. She had a bad quad pull. And she would not let me not have her practice. And back in those days, we'd have the nice thing. We'd have the nice, they have parachutes. Now, when the runners run, they have parachutes behind them. We didn't have that kind of stuff. All we had was what Alan Braley drags behind him to do the baseball field. You know what? That's what the girls used to drag behind them with a rope around them, drag it behind them. So they got thunder thighs, you know where they came from, okay? You can blame me, all right? You can blame me. Not that Leah does, I'm just saying if they do. I'm not gonna say any more about that. Anyway, so we got going down. So she's coming along the senior year, and she's doing real well. She's undefeated senior year all the way through, and she's doing a lot of running. We are going with Mrs. Black, June Pinto at the time, down in Madison Square Garden during the indoor season to watch her. And she didn't make the finals, but we had a good time down at Madison Square Garden anyway. But she ran for Falmouth Track Club, and John Carroll would call me up on a Saturday and say, gee, is Leah doing anything next weekend? And he would call me up and he would use her to accomplish many of his feats with the Falmouth Track Club. And it was interesting. He did a lot of work with Leah, and he certainly deserves a lot of the credit too. She ended up with that pulled quad, and like I said, she only got a 6th in the 100. And Patty Holcomb, who was a teammate, also won the state all-state meetup that was at UMass. At that point in time, they were teammates going through. You can see what I'm saying, alluding to all these girls who were just fantastic. In a senior year, again, going back to that, in indoor, worked with Mr. Porter, and Al did a good job with it, took him around quite a few places. She still holds the indoor. She holds 3 records indoor. All right, still to this day, 22 years ago. That's a long time. And outdoor, she went on to the state championship, and I have one very good story to tell you about the state championship. There's a few stories in the state championships, which I happened to take pictures of, which they didn't know. Jimmy and Leah did not know that I had taken movies of them. And as a matter of fact, Jimmy makes a cameo in there, doing the hurdles. And I don't know about that form over there, Jimmy, I don't know. Anyway, they came to our house after taking us out a couple weeks ago and that kind of stuff, and I had it set up, and went on to show Patty and Beth Ingham and Liz Lynch there consoling, as she does so well, certain things that happened. But the big thing that happened was in the long jump. She was 7th, and they take 7 into the final. Now, this is a whole pile of girls. And she was last. She was 7th. Made in the final, and I get 3 more jumps. She'd already gone twice, and the last time it was like, she was still 7th. And I said to her, and I know she could do it. I knew she could do it. So I said, look, Leah. Right about this time, I was a little bit steamed. I said, you get down as far as you want to go. I said, you don't watch your mark in long jumping. You run long, you hit your mark, and you take off, and hopefully you take off where you should. Never mind that. You get down, you run as fast as you can. And I says, you get your 40 butt up as high as you can. And you hold those legs up there. Exactly what I told her, verbatim. I said, hold them. I'm a son of a gun. She wins, okay? Sets a state record, all right? Goes on to Penn State and all those other nice things and a nice full scholarship. And down there she's named to the National Honor Hall of Fame. She's also in the Penn State Hall of Fame for running. To say the lady had blazed a trail that, I'll be quite frank, is one that is quite envious, and that's almost over 20 years ago. I find that a great accomplishment for a great lady, and I think that's something that girls nowadays look at and say, gee, I don't know if I can do that, but somebody did it 22 years ago, and there's no reason why ladies can't do it again, okay? And all I want to say is, what a woman, okay? And with that, love you, Leah, and you know that. And the family, so with her. Leah, would you come up, please?
Thank you, Coach. I want to first thank the Hall of Fame Committee for organizing such a wonderful evening. It's quite an honor and a pleasure to be here tonight with my fellow inductees. I want to also take this opportunity to thank my friends and family members, especially my parents, for their constant support and for taking the time to be here this evening. Needless to say, I certainly wouldn't be here tonight if it weren't for the wonderful opportunities that were made available to me through the Dartmouth educational system, both athletically and academically. Women's sports have certainly come a long way in 22 years, and I feel extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to participate and to benefit from a program that was non-existent before the spring of 1972. Coach Bob Simmons was aware of the void that existed in girls track, so he fulfilled a great need when he became the driving force behind the formation of Dartmouth High's first girls track and field program. His determination in launching a successful program was quite evident in the way that he was able to quickly produce a group of competitive athletes on the state level. I know that I do not stand alone in thanking Coach Simmons for all that he has done for the many athletes whose lives that he has touched. Coach Simmons has been a great inspiration to me, and his impact upon my life has been extremely positive. He was the one solely responsible for sparking my interest in competitive running and then for fueling the passion that I developed for it. When I think back to my high school days, the one thing that I am most proud of is to have been part of a team that was able to accomplish so much during the very early stages of its formation. As a new team, we certainly didn't have much, especially my freshman and sophomore years, in terms of equipment, uniforms, and proper training shoes or spikes. In fact, it was a cause for great celebration the day the team finally purchased its first pair of spikes, only to be worn and shared by many, those of us who were lucky enough to have a size 7 foot. But it's not what we didn't have, rather it's what we did have that truly made all the difference. We had such a group of gutsy, dedicated girls: Patty Holcomb, Lizzie Lynch, Kathy Schmarzo, Beth Hingham, Mary Lou Robidoux, to name just a few, who thrived off challenges and whose attitudes encouraged each other in a bond that was inspired by a coach who had quickly taught us that working hard and maintaining a positive mental attitude was the key to success of any kind, be it on or off the track. Coach Simmons also taught me how to set goals and how to then systematically go about achieving those goals. He taught me how to grin and bear it, that with no guts there is no glory, and that there certainly isn't any gain without any pain. In essence, Coach Simmons was the first to teach me about the great powers of the mind. All these lessons became part of a solid foundation on which I was able to build upon during my often competitive collegiate years. And these same lessons continue to be a very important part of my life today. I want to also take this opportunity to thank Mr. Porter and Assistant Coach Manderville for graciously allowing a handful of female athletes to invade their boys' indoor track team. Not only did we get to train with the boys, but we also competed against them when the opposing teams did not have any female runners. Mr. Porter was certainly ahead of his time in the fair and equal treatment he gave to both genders. Just like the boys, I was called a baboose on occasion. And I was also ordered to do my 20 push-ups as punishment for false starting during practice workouts. Like Coach Simmons, Mr. Porter's style of coaching was extremely beneficial to me and has certainly been known to build character in all their athletes. In closing, I would like to say that I think it is very important to remember, since we so often tend to forget, that behind every athlete, no matter how successful he or she may be, usually stands a truly dedicated coach, the main energy source from which the athlete draws his or her inspiration. And I know how lucky I was and how grateful I still am to have had my fair share of great coaches. Thank you.
Our next Hall of Famer is Michael Tavares, the class of 1984. It is my honor to be able to present Michael to the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame. The only way to describe Michael's personality is that he's the most ingenuous young man that I've ever had the pleasure to coach. His sincerity and humble way was such a paradox for a football player who terrorized his opponents. Each play that he was involved in, each play that he made, was played with 100%. As a coach for many years, his achievements as a football player have never been equaled, in my opinion. They were so extraordinary at Dartmouth High School in the years that he played. He participated in 22 games, and we lost 1. And if I said that Michael was instrumental in 85% of those games, I would be telling you the truth. I have been involved and coached in many, many games, but I've never seen a man have an impact in a game as this young man, Michael Tavares. He terrorized opposing centers, and people used to call me on the phone on Fridays before our game, opposing coaches, and say, "Is Tavares going to be sick tomorrow?" I remember a story that his dad told me once when Michael was trying out for a team in the South End, the Pee-wees of New Bedford. When his first practice was over, he went back to the car, and his dad said, "How do you like this game, Mike?" Mike looked up at his dad and said, "I think I'm going to really like this game." And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the rest is history. He had the quickest 3-foot explosion I have ever seen. As I said before, he terrorized centers of opposing teams. He was a nose tackle. And this is very unusual for a nose tackle to lead the team in tackles 17 out of 22 games. Unheard of. He blocked 11 punts during 22 games. This record will never be broken. He went on to Westfield State College and is still a legend up there at Westfield. Pound for pound, Michael Tavares, the best defensive football player that I have ever had the pleasure to coach in high school or college. It is an honor for me to present to you, to the Dartmouth High School Hall of Fame, Michael Tavares. Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Lynch, for that introduction. I feel that I owe you and the rest of the coaches at Dartmouth High a great deal of thanks for the extremely excellent job you did in teaching us the game, keeping the team motivated, and making it so enjoyable. Without you, I probably wouldn't be here tonight accepting this honor. I'd also like to thank my mother and father for getting me involved in the sport of football and for always being so encouraging and supportive, especially when I got discouraged. Finally, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for choosing me to receive this honor. And I really consider it an honor, especially when you consider the fact that I played on a team of such exceptional athletes. Thank you.
The next part of our program is devoted to the Special Achievement Award, and this is a very difficult award to pick because in the town of Dartmouth and in our school department and in the history of the town, there are so many people who deserve such awards. But this year, as we talked about at the committee came up with these two men in 15 minutes. It was so easy. The first Special Achievement Award is being presented to Tony Pinto. And I have been given the privilege of presenting Tony into this distinguished group of Hall of Famers. For over 30 years, Tony was responsible for the athletic facilities for the Dartmouth Public Schools. Whenever visiting teams came into our school, they were overwhelmed by the care and appearance of our athletic fields. This responsibility was Tony's. He took such pride in his work, but he and the other special achievement recipient had this pride because it was for the students and children of Dartmouth. Tony, again, is the ultimate unconditional giver. I think of all the young men and women that worked for Tony in the summer, including one of our Hall of Famers tonight, Liv and Tori McBratney, who were influenced by your kindness, caring, and common sense. I know each and every one of these young people are really proud of your induction tonight. Tony was not only a foreman, he was their counselor and friend. Tony was also one of the original founders of the DYAA, which is very popular in the town of Dartmouth today. He was a member of the Dartmouth High School football and baseball team in 1931 and 32. Tony's great pride and joy, though, has always been his family. And the guiding light of this wonderful family, his lovely wife, Mary. It's a real honor and privilege for me to present to you tonight Tony Pinto into our Hall of Fame. Mr. Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. And people wonder why I call him Mr. Lynch. I'm twice as old as he is. I do that because I have a high respect for him, and I should have. I never worked for him. He never worked for me. We worked together, always. And that's teamwork, and only teamwork. Anything I have done in my lifetime for kids is because I love to do it. It wasn't because I had to do it. And I want to thank the committee for inducting me and giving me this honor. I want to thank somebody who was mostly responsible for my working for Dartmouth schools and putting me in this position to be so honored. He was a friend. I don't even need the paper. I don't have much to say. He was a friend that started a great friendship when we were sophomores in high school. He was known as E. Dean Freitas, Doc Freitas to everybody. He tried for 5 years to get me to work for the school department when I was a tool and die maker. I gave up half of my pay to go in the school department. So I got to thank him from the bottom of my heart, because I wouldn't be honored tonight if it wasn't for him. I want to thank everyone who was present supporting this program. And to my wife, I don't know how she could stand me for 57 years. But I and Leah, one of the best workers I ever had. She was better, almost better than Wally Farrier. So, saying this, I will say, I have to look this time, right? I assure you that I will cherish this honor as long as I live. Thank you.
I love it.
No. See, that column wasn't even going to give me a plaque.
I should give it to Mary.
She deserves it. Thank you.
Before I call Walter Farrier up one more time, our next recipient of the Distinguished Special Achievement Award, Mr. Tony Gonzalez, is a man that I met for the first time 30 years ago, and I was so impressed with his love of the town of Dartmouth, and especially the Dartmouth High School athletic program and the football team. And Wally Farrier has told me the history of the scoreboard, that we would never had that scoreboard for his dad, and of course Mr. Gonzalez. It was the first electronic scoreboard in the area that any high school ever had. There are so many stories that we could tell about Mr. Gonzalez, but as a football coach, Sunday morning is a very important time in your life, and after the football game, because you're watching films for about 5 or 6 hours, and the kids, you know, they get used to watching the films, but they also try to watch who's watching the game, you know, and all of a sudden you're giving them heck, and all of a sudden, finally one kid about, after 5 or 6 years, he said to me, you know, Coach, who's that guy in the end zone? He said, he's always in the end zone. And I said, what do you mean? He said, the man with the glasses there, he says, every time we score a touchdown, he's in the end zone. And all of a sudden, I said, well, that's a real supporter of ours. And 3 or 4 years go by, and all of a sudden, some boy would say to me, Coach, who's that man in the end zone? And I said, well, that's Mr. Gonzalez. And he always would tell me that you'll always know that I'm in the end zone all the time. And I remember he was there, rain, snow, heat, did not matter when. But when vocational high school was being built, Mr. Gonzalez was a locksmith. And as you know, the Bedford Vocational High School is a very big high school. And there must be a lot of locks in that place. But I was over there one day with one of our principals, and he said, I saw him, he said, oh, Coach, don't worry about these guys. He said, this may be a big school, but our boys at Dartmouth will beat them. And he always thought that way. And what a wonderful honor. And I know Tony is with us tonight, and I know, of course, his family is here, and Tony's watching us. But I'd like to have Walter come up, who's been a lifelong friend of his family's, and knew him a lot longer and a lot better than I did, to say a few words about Tony. Wally?
I wish it wasn't as late as it was, because I could talk for an hour and Tony Gonzalez, but I won't do that. I just want to say that, as Colin pointed out, that when I left Dartmouth High School, Mr. Gonzalez had been in every game. His son Richard played with us and was one heck of an end. I never thought Mr. Gonzalez, I thought he would be like other parents, that once the children leave the school system, you never see him again. Mr. Gonzalez was a Dartmouth High School fan, and after our senior year, we were undefeated in the football team at his suggestion, and it's probably because from the end zone, he never knew what the score was, he was so excited, that he said, well, we have to have a scoreboard. And that was basically so he could see the score, so when he wanted to yell at the officials there, he would know what the score was. And he went around, the committee really was Tony Gonzalez. And when he went around to have volunteers volunteer to help, and I don't really realize what the, when I think back about the cost of that scoreboard, it must have been astronomical, but Tony Gonzalez collected all the money, and when he asked for the money, as a former United States Marine, everybody volunteered. He had that air about him that you didn't want to say no to Tony Gonzalez. He did it on his own, basically, and he collected the money. But the unique thing about it, as I was going to say, is that Mr. Gonzalez never stopped going to Dartmouth football games in Dartmouth athletics. And I know he had a gold pass that said a lifetime pass to all Dartmouth sports, and he's still using it. He's one hell of a guy, and I know we all love him. I always watching over the games, he's still there. And I can remember when I was away, after I left Dartmouth High School, I'd always call back to find out how Dartmouth High School made out of the football games, and I used to call the Standard Times. I remember the numbers, 9977411. If I couldn't get through, I called Tony Gonzalez for the score. And not only did I get the score, but I found out everything that happened in the game. And when I found out that he loved the game, he loved Dartmouth High School, and he loved Colin Lynch football. And he was dedicated to Dartmouth, and I'm proud to say that Mrs. Gonzalez, will you come up and accept this honor for him? Richard?
Well, if you knew my dad, you know where you'd find him on a Saturday afternoon. He'd always be in the end zone. He loved Dartmouth football. No other sport, Dartmouth football. That was his thing. Every Saturday, guaranteed he'd be there. A lot of stories go on how the scoreboard got going, and it actually got going in the football season of '62. Coach Regis may remember that team. We were 0-7-1. That's when my dad became a Dartmouth football fan. The last game we were playing at home, and it was against Fairhaven, Thanksgiving Day. Now we're 0-7-1. Rocky may remember this too. The last play of the game, Rocky scored, and they claimed that his knee had touched the ground and time had run out. So we went 0-8-1. That was it. When I got home that day, my dad said to me, should have won that game. I said, Dad, I mean, any game would have been. He said, we should have won that game. What we need is a scoreboard because we didn't know time was going to run out. That's when it started. So a year later, the next season, I start seeing pamphlets of scoreboards coming in to the house. Now, I don't think he's talked to anybody yet in the athletic department, but he's got a plan. He knows, you know, he wants to ask for a scoreboard. At the time, Al Palmieri was the athletic director, and he met with him and said, why don't we have a scoreboard? So Al said, well, I mean, nobody has a scoreboard. And he said, well, why don't we have one? I mean, we could have won a football game if we had a scoreboard. You know, Al Palmieri told him that the school committee, you just wouldn't, you know, nobody had a scoreboard. My dad made the suggestion that he would raise money for a scoreboard. Went through the channels with Al Palmieri, the school committee, and took him and his good friend, Walter Farrier Sr., a year and a half to collect donations or just put it all together. But getting the scoreboard wasn't enough. The money, he wanted to come up with the money so it would come to no cost to the town. He wanted to pay for the scoreboard. He wanted to pay the installation, everything. So it was no cost to the town. The day that scoreboard came, he was there making sure that it was completely installed correctly, and that was it. My dad spent 25 years going to football games, Dartmouth High School football games. It didn't make any difference where they played. Home, away, it didn't make any difference. Guaranteed he was there. If there was a Dartmouth student that was on an all-star team and they were playing a game in Boston as they did in the summer, my dad would be there, guaranteed. So for 25 years, he went to football games. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I figure when you graduate from high school, you figure your parents are going to stop going to games. But he just, you know, luckily he had Walter Farrier Sr. with him, and he dragged him around. I mean, whether it was Super Bowls or whatever, they'd be there, rain, snow, in the Cape. It didn't make any difference. He'd be there. He truly, truly loved Dartmouth football. And the real reason that that scoreboard is there, as Wally possibly has said, is that being at the game, my dad needed to know where the ball was and how much time was left. He needed to know that's why the scoreboard's there. God forbid if there was ever a light out in the scoreboard. I mean, I think he may have carried some with him. I mean, but he was truly, he loved Dartmouth football. He had a special love for that football team, and he compared it to every other football team that he saw. And, you know, I mean, I'd go to a game with him, and I'd be standing beside him talking, and I'm watching the game, and then all of a sudden, I'm talking to myself because he's already heading down, because he had to be in the end zone that Dartmouth was driving it. If the ball changed hands 3 or 4 times, he's already been down the field 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was incredible. But he would have really appreciated this honor that you bestowed on him. He would have really, really loved it. My family, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. As we close the evening out, I think it's important that we remember the great athletes who have been inducted in here tonight, and that we wish them the very, very best. That their memories always be good of Dartmouth, as Leah said. And may we think about the young athletes who are coming up, and they may have the same love and spirit that each and every one of you have. And I think with Mr. King and Dr. Kelly and Mr. Hickey and Mr. Barry, that tradition will be carried on because of their love of athletics. Thank you very much for coming, and God bless.